Good morning, Amy. Lovely to see you this morning. And thanks for being the third candidate, as it were, in our series of CloudTrade TV blog posts. So delighted to have you today. And Amy, just tell the listeners, if you would, what your role is in CloudTrade, your position, and what you do for the company.
Yeah, of course. So I am the head of operations here at CloudTrade. I started off 5.5 years ago now as a technical analyst in the operations team. And since then, I've sort of worked my way up to the head of operations. My main responsibilities are sort of looking after all of our customers through all stages of the life cycle. So my team support the sales team in demos and proof of concepts, all the way through to project kickoffs and the project process itself, all the way then to sending those customers into our BAU team, looking after them on a day-to-day basis. And I take overall responsibility for that.
Wow, a huge level of responsibility. And many congrats to you for working your way all the way through the ranks, as it were. And that
Thank
brings me
you.
nicely to, the subject for today is women in tech. And this is
Yeah.
International Women's Week. And, back in the early days when you originally joined CloudTrade, you were the only lady that we had in the company. So tell us a little bit what it was like back in those early days, coming into the den of a completely male-orientated environment and being the only lady. How did you survive?
It was interesting. I remember in my interview, the operations manager asking me, "You will be the only woman in this team in the business. Are you okay with that?" And for me, it was a funny question because I studied physics at university, so I was actually quite used to being in that environment in a very heavily male dominated environment. Sadly, STEM subjects are still not really taken up heavily by women, or at least they weren't in 2010, which I appreciate. Oh my God, that was 11 years ago. Um, wow. But so it was an environment that I was used to being in. Um, Professionally, it was different than it was at university when I was studying, but I, you know, I think a lot of the battle that I had was about proving my technical capability, and actually what I find is that isn't just a female thing. I think that is something, um, especially in technical roles, that everyone has to prove. I'm not quite sure why it is specifically in this industry,
Yeah.
but I think a lot of it is about proving your technical capability, um, and your soft skills alongside that.
Well, certainly from personal experience, you don't need to prove your technical capability to me. It goes without question. I often come running to you, as you know, with, how do we sort this? And the customer's got this demand. How do we resolve it? And 9 times out of 10, you've got the answer. So that's great. Now, I agree with you, looking at STEM subjects and looking at basic education, there is a change. And, women are getting much more involved in probably disciplines that historically they weren't invited to, or there was no desire from their point of view to get involved in it. It'd be interesting for me to, or for the listeners, just to hear, when we put job adverts out and we're recruiting people, are you finding there's a change in the applicants? Are you getting more ladies who are applying for, programming jobs, which historically have been preserved, for men really to get involved in? I personally think that's changed. Interested to get your view.
I think you're right. Definitely we do see more applicants from women in the roles that we advertise. I think it's been an uphill struggle. Definitely, we used to not see as many. Obviously, I've sort of been recruiting for 5.5 years here now, and we've definitely seen an uptick in the amount of women that we have applying um, to the technical roles within the operations team, certainly. And I know that's true of the development team as well. They've grown um, their sort of female staff base over the last few years as well.
Yeah.
I think the change in attitudes generally, if you go back 50, 60 years, women were taught to sew and cook at school, and iron things, which, nobody taught me to iron anything, which I'm grateful for to an extent. I'm sure my other half is not as happy when I refuse to iron his shirts, but yeah, and then I think that attitude has slowly changed over the years. I went to an all-girls school, so there was never really a separation, sort of between 1 minute, Steve, sorry.
Right.
There was never really a separation between, subjects which would be more male oriented and subjects which would be more female oriented, because it was an all girls school. So we weren't discouraged from taking subjects or anything like that. And I think that for me, pushed me into not being afraid to enter that male dominated world, I think.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. And I mean, if you look at industry and if you look at politics, the inclusion of women at all levels, being CEOs of businesses, commonplace today. And I think that generally the market welcomes that. That bringing that diversity into a business, into politics, is very healthy. Everybody's got a view, and we welcome the ladies that are employed in CloudTrade. They provide a very valuable contribution. Just interested in your views in terms of the future then. We've got, I don't know how many ladies we have working for the company now. Perhaps you just sort of give a bit of background about the roles that you're looking to fulfill, what women are doing in the company today, and the contribution you feel that they're delivering over and above their male counterparts.
So it's interesting. So we are currently at 16 of 50 employees are women.
Wow.
I think we've got 4 in the development team, 1 in sales, we've got 3 in marketing, we've got 1 in finance, and then there's quite a lot in the operations team.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. Obviously, as you know, I've been doing my blog series this week, chatting to all of our women in our team.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Rebecca in our sales team actually mentioned was, I think women have a certain sense of empathy that men don't necessarily have sometimes. It's not that it's not there, but I think perhaps it's not always expressed in the same way.
Right.
And I think that is our strength as women, is our empathy. And I think it helps to us to have a different perspective on problems. I
Mm.
think it gives us a fresh set of eyes, a different way of looking at things. So, and I think that it helps us to see things from I suppose a customer perspective when we're dealing with things, and I think that what that also does is it helps us with our communication skills, um, and our organisation skills, all that sort of thing. I think that empathy, that kind of like understanding of sort of what is required for other people, how other people may feel about what we're doing, kind of pushes us to be the best we can. I watched a really interesting video on YouTube about how a lot of women in technical roles often become what's known as the glue, where they are the ones that are liaising between various teams. They are the ones that talk to the customer to gather the requirements, and how that can affect their progression in an actual technical role, because of, are they doing technical work, or are they doing the work that sits around the technical work in order to
Right.
facilitate it?
Yeah.
And that was something that really resonated with me, because obviously, especially in my role, a lot of what I do is the glue work, facilitating things happening.
Mm.
um, but particularly at CloudTrade, I think it it makes my heart sing that we have so many fantastic, successful women here, and that we've grown this, because I do think that we would be a different company if we didn't have that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And all, as I said before, all credit to you for starting that journey, being the first lady in the company, and long may our recruitment program and the inclusion of women in business continue without a shadow of a doubt. You know, men are always accused of not being able to multitask, and probably, yeah, I agree with you, maybe lack a little bit in the area of empathy. So, you know, we learn a lot from our female counterparts in the business. Amee, it's been lovely speaking to you today. Thank you for your time. I hope the listeners enjoy what we've had to talk about, and we'll see them all on the next podcast. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, Steve. Speak to you
Take
later.
care. Bye for now.
Bye.